of my ear. My husband fell down the stairs, smashed open the front of his head, the back of his head. My son just broke out in hives head to toe. Hello you guys! I am in Canada and I am so excited to be here, but I have a few stories to tell you before about how our trip went in Portugal. If you are not following me over on Instagram, I'm sharing all of my adventures over the next 3 months in Canada, Guatemala, and Portugal over on my Instagram channel at @lifeingermany_. Anyway, I am so glad that I am in Canada for multiple reasons. I was really looking forward to our Portugal trip and I opened up to you guys and apologized to you guys a couple weeks ago about why I've been so negative and the things that have been happening in my life with security issues and getting ripped off and cheated and having my accounts hacked and my husband being sick and everything. And then everybody kept telling me, hold tight, Jenna, you know, things will get better. And as soon as you get on that flight to Portugal and you're on maternity leave, you know, things will be so much more relaxed. And I thought, oh God, I hope you're right. Anyway, I had a sinus infection before we flew. I ruptured my eardrum on the flight. Same day, I started leaking fluids and a little bit of blood out of my ear. Any of you have had an ear infection before? I've actually staked the claim, at least in my situation, that the ear infections were worse than giving birth. We tried to go to multiple different doctors. There was 2 different holidays while we were in Portugal, which was super inconvenient. I don't know why I'm nervous, but I am. There was just no doctor in, which is super weird. So that last one didn't work. I just tried this one too. The last one didn't have a guy in for the ears until 3 days. This one doesn't have one until next week. So we drove to the hospital and the lineup was just like out the door down the street, and then I was like, I'm not doing this. Day 2 of attempting to find a doctor. Just how I'm feeling right now. And today the problem was we went to 2 different medical clinics and then we found out that it's a holiday in Portugal. So everything's closed. And if I want to go to the hospital, then it's going to be even more full than it was yesterday. So well, that's a wrap. We're at the playground instead. And the whole town is so empty. I don't know, where does everybody go in Portugal on a holiday? Let's try again tomorrow. Health clinics there in Portugal actually have specialists and they come on specific days. So you can't just walk in and say, I have an earache, because they'll say, oh, sorry, you know, that the ear doctor only comes on Tuesdays. We spent the entire week at pharmacies, at doctors' offices, at hospitals for not just this purpose, but also my husband fell down the stairs. This is what he looked like. It was awful. The next day, we were so lucky. There was a Notfallarzt, an emergency doctor who was actually attending that same wedding, was able to check out his head. I was on antibiotics at that point in time and managed to go to the hospital. I want to talk a little bit about this in a second. I'll finish my story about our time in Portugal in case you're not interested about how I actually went about doing it and how I used my German health insurance to actually get that completely covered. There were a number of tips that I learned along the way that I want to share with you guys. I've been in Germany for 9 years now, and this was the first time I ever actually had to claim insurance from abroad. So after my husband fell down the stairs, smashed open the front of his head, the back of his head, my son for the first time ever just broke out in hives head to toe. We had no clue what was going on. We had to go to another pharmacy, couldn't find any doctors that were open. We go to bed, we're like, okay, tomorrow we're flying to Canada, like this all has to be over. And then my daughter wakes up with an eye infection and a sinus infection, and I just was like, when is this series of unfortunate events ever going to end? I can happily say that the last few days here in Canada have been incredible. I mean, this is Canadian cottage country. I am in Ontario. This is 3 hours north of Toronto. We're actually at the family cottage right now. If you want to learn more about Canada, let me know, of course. I am really excited to be making videos. I'm gonna bring my family into some of these videos because my nephews are super excited to be part of these videos. But yeah, Portugal was great. Portugal is beautiful. We went to this beautiful wine region. We went to a wedding. It was stunning. It's just these series of unfortunate events weren't the nicest. I want to get down to business. So for those of you guys who want to know how to go about actually using your German health insurance abroad, I'm hoping that this will serve as a good tool. First things first, they do not cover health costs and charges all over the world. They include them primarily in EU countries, but they will have a list. Your insurance provider will have a list. They're typically often the same among different providers. I will include an example list down below, but there are a few loopholes and tricks that I think it's really important to note if you are going to go this route and go to a doctor abroad. One thing I didn't know until I started talking to different health insurance providers over in Germany is that they actually cover some countries outside of the EU as well. So how exactly does it work? Well, it's actually pretty easy. Your health insurance card, if you flip it over and look on the back side, this is a European health insurance card. You will see that logo on the back of your health card. You will be using this card very similarly as you would in Germany. However, it might be different case by case. So if you walk into a doctor, let's say in Mallorca, and you have your health insurance card, they might take it, they might not take it. Either way, you will be able to get your medical fees covered. However, if they don't take it, it's not going to be covered automatically. So you're going to have to pay an upfront fee for the medication and for the appointment, then get that money back from your health insurance provider. This is what you're going to do. If it is not an absolute emergency and you're able to call your health insurance provider, I would do this beforehand, before you actually go.
Hallo, Frau Davis hier. Ich bin bei Sie versichert. Ich wollte nur auf der sicheren Seite sein, bevor ich zum Arzt hier gehe. Ich bin hier in Portugal. Ich habe mein Ohr verletzt. Ich muss jetzt zum Arzt gehen. Ich wollte nur wissen, also wie das funktioniert dann im Ausland.
Dann versuchen Sie erstmal, dass die Karte angenommen wird. Wenn die Karte nicht angenommen wird, dann müssten Sie die Kosten vorstrecken und müssten uns dann die Rechnung einreichen und wir müssen Ihnen einen Fragebogen zuschicken. Dann kann ich Ihnen aber auch schon mal nach Hause schicken, wenn Sie möchten.
Kann ich das auch über den Barmer abschicken, den Rechnung?
Ja, auch.
Okay, super.
Das ist möglich, gell? Haben Sie eine private Zusatzversicherung?
Ja, also wir haben ADAC, Auslandsversicherung.
Weil das ist wichtig, weil bestimmte Kosten ja nicht von der Gesetzgebung übernommen werden können, gell?
Okay.
Not everything is covered. For example, let's say you're going to Switzerland and they cover the healthcare costs that you need and they charge you a fee that is actually higher than the fee that they would charge in Germany. Well, your health insurance isn't actually going to cover that full fee. They're only going to cover what they typically would back in Germany. In this case, I highly suggest getting this Reisekrankenversicherung Zusatzversicherung, which is an additional health insurance that will cover those additional costs if that happens to you. In Portugal, I found that the costs of an appointment were actually relatively similar to Germany. However, the first thing my husband said before I walked in was, "Babe, make sure you don't get screwed over." And I was like, what does that even mean? How am I supposed to know whether I'm getting screwed over or not? I don't even know what an appointment costs in Germany. And he pulled out a number and was like, I think it costs about 50 euros. So it should cost somewhere between 30 and 50 euros for this appointment. Make sure you ask ahead of time before they screw you over because they know you're international, so they can screw you over. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Really? Like, I'm in so much pain right now. I don't want to have to worry about this, but you do. So it's very good to call your insurance provider if you can beforehand, tell them what's going on, ask them what steps you need to take and how much an appointment typically would be in Germany, aka how much are they actually going to cover. So I went into the first doctor's office to check if they had an appointment. They didn't, but they said they might in a couple of days and they'd let me know. So then I asked right away, okay, well, what does an appointment cost? And she was like, my English is not so good, but it's about 400 euros. And I was just like, oh my God. My husband was right. They are screwing me over. And she's like, let me write it for you. And she wrote it down. She holds it up. It said 40 euros. So I was like, okay. Perfect, great, I don't need to worry. I ended up having to go to the hospital a couple days later because we tried to find support somewhere else, but everything was closed. And at the hospital, I never asked, but at the end I did get a bill and it totaled 40 euros for the appointment. So not all that bad. If your health insurance provider actually does offer some sort of teledoctor, so this is a doctor that you can go on an app and talk to, go online and talk to. There's different apps that you can use. I've used one called Telehealth in the past, which I go through with Doc Morris. So I have the Doc Morris app and then I go order my medication with them and they have a partner app that takes you to the doctors that you need. Anyway, that's a good tip or a good option if you do want to prevent having to go to a doctor or the hospital in another country. So let's say you do go to a face-to-face doctor or to the hospital in a country that is covered under your health insurance in Germany. Let's use my situation for example. What you're going to do is make that claim through your insurance company. With mine, I can use an app, but don't forget that they're going to need certain documents from you and proof from you in order to actually give you that money back. So So make sure you get an invoice. Make sure it states your name, who was treated. It should include details about what was being treated. So in my case, an ear infection. And of course, which costs were incurred. You can also take the prescription that they have given you and submit that to your health insurance company as well. But it is really as simple as that, which is great. But again, do not forget that there are little loopholes. So if the procedure is more expensive in the country you're in, then they might not cover the full cost. You should get some add-on insurance for that purpose. And just make sure that they're not screwing you over. If you're totally unsure, again, give your health insurance company a call and they should be able to let you know approximately what it would cost in Germany. I hope that helps a little bit. It is relatively simple process, which I was definitely very relieved about. I'm doing okay now. I am totally deaf in my one ear. I'm just finished my antibiotics and I am just so excited to be here, be with my family, be at my cottage. So if you have any questions about what we're doing here, perhaps you're curious about the life that we live or the way that we live here in Canada, let me know in the comment section below. I am really happy to bring you guys with me. And I think my series of unfortunate events has come to an end. Fingers crossed. Vielen, vielen, vielen lieben Dank, you guys. Und wie immer, bis später.